And we are back to What Did AI Say at Vicky L-4AI on YouTube. Thank you so very much for coming back to the podcast. Gratitude is the attitude. Let's go ahead and jump right into today's question because we have a lot of information to get through. Okay, here we go. As always, we're going to start with Chatgpt. Are people born gay/lesbian, or are there other external factors that promote and or influence those preferences? Great question. The question of whether people are born gay or lesbian, or whether external factors influence sexual orientation, has been studied extensively in fields like genetics, psychology, neuroscience, and sociology. Current scientific understanding suggests that sexual orientation is shaped by a complex interaction of biological and environmental factors, rather than being solely innate or purely a matter of external influence. Let's read that again. Current scientific understanding suggests that sexual orientation is shaped by a complex interaction of biological and environmental factors, rather than being solely innate or purely a matter of external influence. Okay, here's a breakdown of what research shows. 1. Biological factors, innate influences. There's a strong evidence that biology plays a major role in determining sexual orientation. A. Genetics. Twin studies show that identical twins are more likely to share the same sexual orientation than fraternal twins or siblings, indicating a genetic component. However, it's not 100% genetic. Even identical twins sometimes differ in orientation. In 2019, a massive study of nearly 500,000 people, the GWAS study, found that no single gay gene exists, but thousands of genetic variations slightly influence sexual orientation. Let's read that again. In 2019, a massive study of nearly 500,000 people, it was the GWAS study, found that no single gay gene exists, but thousands of genetic variations slightly influence sexual orientation. Conclusion: genes don't fully determine orientation, but they create a biological predisposition. B. Prenatal hormonal environment. During pregnancy, the hormonal environment in the womb can affect brain development, including areas related to attraction and sexual behavior. Androgens, like testosterone, play a role. Higher or lower levels during critical stages of fetal development may influence whether a person is attracted to males or females later in life. This theory is supported by studies on birth order. Men with older brothers are more likely to be gay, possibly due to maternal immune responses affecting the developing male fetus. C. Brain structure. Brain imaging studies have found subtle structural differences in certain regions of the brain between heterosexual and homosexual individuals. For example, the hypothalamus linked to sexual behavior tends to show patterns more similar between gay men and heterosexual women, and vice versa. Okay, moving on to page 2 of ChatGPT. Actually, on this question, ChatGPT has 2.5 pages. Okay, 2. Environmental and social factors. While biology sets a foundation, external factors can influence expression, identity, and behavior. Let me read that again. While biology sets a foundation, external factors can influence expression, identity, and behavior. A. Family dynamics and upbringing. No credible evidence shows that parenting style, childhood trauma, or socialization alone causes someone to be gay or straight. However, family and culture shape how people express or suppress their orientation, such as whether they feel safe to come out. And we also talked about the suppression of people's sexual orientation in the in another episode about religion. So suppression is a big one. B, societal and cultural influence. Culture influences sexual identity labels and how people interpret their attractions. For example, in some societies, same sex behavior might occur without individuals identifying as gay or lesbian. Strict environments may lead some people to hide or repress their orientation, while more open societies allow greater freedom of expression. C, trauma or life events. Some people mistakenly believe abuse or trauma creates homosexuality. Research shows this is not the case. Trauma can influence relationships, it can influence trust and intimacy patterns, but it does not determine innate sexual orientation. 3, spectrum or fluidity. Sexual orientation exists on a spectrum, not a strict binary. Some people experience fluidity in their attractions over time, especially women. This doesn't mean orientation is a choice, but rather that human sexuality is naturally diverse and dynamic. 4, scientific consensus. Most major health organizations like the APA, the WHO, etc., agree sexual orientation has biological roots and is not a mental disorder. It cannot be changed through therapy. Example, conversion therapy is considered harmful and unethical. External factors may influence how a person understands and expresses their orientation, but does not cause it. Let me repeat that. External factors may influence how a person understands and expresses their orientation, but does not cause it. Summary table. Factor type role in sexual orientation. Genetics creates predisposition. There is no single gay gene. Prenatal hormones, strong evidence they affect sexual orientation. Brain structure, some differences linked to attraction patterns. Parenting upbringing does not cause orientation, but affects self-acceptance and identity. Culture, society shapes how orientation is expressed and labeled. Trauma abuse does not cause innate orientation. In conclusion, this is Chatgpt's conclusion. People are not simply born gay in a purely genetic sense, nor is sexual orientation just the result of external social factors. The most accurate understanding is that sexual orientation develops from a complex interplay of genetics, biology, and environment, with biological factors playing a foundational role. Let me read that again. The conclusion. People are not simply born gay in a purely genetic sense, nor is sexual orientation just a result of external social factors. The most accurate understanding is that sexual orientation develops from a complex interplay of genetics, biology, and environment, with biological factors playing a foundational role. Okay, that was Chatgpt. Let's move on to Deepseek. And just a reminder of the question if you forgot. Are people born gay/lesbian, or are there other external factors that promote and or influence those preferences? Okay, based on the search results, here is a detailed explanation of the factors influencing sexual orientation. 1. Biological factors, prenatal hormones, and brain structure. Sexual orientation is influenced by biological factors that start before birth. Let me repeat that. Sexual orientation is influenced by biological factors that start before birth, particularly during fetal development. The most influential hypothesis involves the impact of hormones on the developing fetus. The fetal brain begins in a female state, and testosterone exposure during critical periods, around 12 weeks after conception, masculinizes the brain. If there is insufficient testosterone exposure, same-sex attraction may develop. For example, lower testosterone exposure in male fetuses may lead to same-sex attraction, while higher exposure in female fetuses may increase the likelihood of same-sex attraction. Brain structure studies show that gay men have brain features, example, size of the INAH3 region, similar to heterosexual women, while lesbians show brain features shifted toward those of heterosexual men. Genetic influences, number 2. Genetics play a role but are not deterministic. Twin studies show that identical twins who share 100% of their DNA have higher concordance rates for sexual orientation compared to fraternal twins who share 50% of their DNA, indicating a genetic component. Large-scale genome-wide association studies, the GWAS, this was referenced in Chatgpt, have identified multiple genetic variants associated with same-sex behavior, but no single gay gene exists. Okay, let's repeat that. Large-scale genome-wide association studies, GWAS, have identified multiple genetic variances associated with same-sex behavior, but no single gay gene exists. Instead, hundreds or thousands of genes contribute minimally, collectively, explaining 8 to 25% of same-sex behavior. Hundreds of thousands of genes contribute minimally, collectively explaining 8 to 25% of same-sex behavior. Some genes may have pleiotropic effects, meaning they could enhance fertility in women while predisposing men to homosexuality, explaining how these genes persist evolutionarily. Number 3, prenatal environmental factors. Maternal immune response. The fraternal birth order effect shows that men with older biological brothers are more likely to be gay. This is attributed to a maternal immune response to male-specific proteins, the NLGN4Y, which increases with each male pregnancy and affects fetal brain development. Thyroid function. Emerging research suggests maternal thyroid dysfunction during pregnancy may influence sexual orientation and gender identity in offspring, though this theory requires further validation. Hormonal imbalances. Conditions like congenital adrenal hyperplasia, CAH, in females, which expose fetus to high testosterone levels, are linked to increased same-sex attraction. Number 4, postnatal social and environmental factors. Evidence for postnatal social influences, example parenting and upbringing, on sexual orientation is weak, especially for males. Studies of children reassigned and raised as a different gender show that their sexual orientation typically aligns with their biological sex, not their upbringing. Sexual orientation is not a choice and cannot be changed by therapy, persuasion, or social experiences. Let me repeat that. Sexual orientation is not a choice and cannot be changed by therapy, persuasion, or social experiences. For example, exposure to toys or activities traditionally associated with another gender. 5, complex interplay of factors. Sexual orientation arises from a complex interplay of genetic, hormonal, and environmental factors. It is not determined by any single factor, but rather by a combination of many small genetic and prenatal influences. Evolutionary theory suggests that homosexuality may persist due to benefits like kin selection, where non-reproductive individuals support relatives' offspring, or trade-off traits, where genes enhancing fertility in one sex predispose to homosexuality in the other. Fluidity and diversity. While sexual orientation is typically, that was number 6, I'm sorry. While sexual orientation is typically set early in life, it can be fluid for some people, shifting over time. However, this fluidity is not a result of conscious choice. The diversity in sexual orientation reflects the natural variation in human biology, similar to other complex traits like height or personality. Let's read that again. The diversity in sexual orientation reflects the natural variation in human biology, similar to other complex traits like height or personality. Key takeaways: people are born with a predisposition to their sexual orientation, which is shaped primarily by biological factors before birth. No single factor causes homosexuality. It results from a combination of genetics, prenatal hormones, and environmental influences. Postnatal social factors have minimal impact, and sexual orientation cannot be changed. Okay, that was Deepseek. Now, both Chatgpt and Deepseek offer a deeper dive into this subject, but let's go ahead and move on to how does any of this affect our daily lives. Okay, so I remember when the the GWAS study was done in 2018, 2019, they came back and said there's no gay gene, there's no gay gene. And everybody was like, okay, so people can't be gay. No, yes, they told us that there was no gay gene, but the whole point of the matter is that gay and lesbian doesn't come from just one factor. It comes from a variation of factors, as both ChatGPT and DeepSeek say. So if we know that many of the factors have to do with before, birth, it's inside the womb, why are we persecuting these people for their sexual orientation? I mean, don't get me wrong. It's not my lifestyle. I do have friends and relatives. It is their lifestyle, and I don't believe it's any of my business. But I am sick and beyond tired of people not recognizing the fact that the majority of these people are not choosing this lifestyle. It is in them because of all of the factors that we just read in both of these AI accounts. So if we understand this, then we need to do better for these people who are different. And we need to respect that difference, and we need to stop persecuting them for their difference. Okay, let's move right along to our positive saying. I believe it's a positive one for today. Yeah. This is a good one. Okay, so I'm not sure who said this. I think it was Jordan Peterson. How a person handles power shows their core values and internal motivation. Power is not a license to exploit, but to uplift others. Power tests the person's ability to avoid temptation. Strong character is open to feedback. That's all I have for you today. Thank you so very much for giving me about 18 minutes of your time. Please like and subscribe. Peace.